Hi everyone! Today marks your final day of Module 1 and we'll be moving into Module 2. So this video is going to be your introduction into Module 2. I wanted to thank you all so much for your unbelievable participation in Module 1. I know that some of you had some issues with posting in the beginning, and I appreciate you staying in contact with me through that and continuing to work and persevere through that. Also for sending me your posts, at least so that I could read things that you were thinking about. Hopefully, now that we've gotten that all straightened out, everyone should be in this module from the beginning. From the announcements page, you're going to go into Module 2, and you'll notice that everything is open in Module 2 now for you. I tend to open the modules 2 or 3 days before the close of the previous module, so this one's been open since Thursday, so that you can go in and start browsing around. And for those of you who get finished with your items early, it's a good time for you to go and start to look at what you're going to be expected to do next. Of course, we like to look at the what to read and do. You'll see that you have a video. It's embedded right here. You can just click. You also have 5 different chapters to read in the 2 books. Remember, skimming is your friend. In this module, we do not have a deliverable assignment for the end of the module, so all you'll be responsible for is your learning log and discussion board posts, and also getting a jump start on the next 2 projects that are coming up in this course, because they take just a little bit of extra time. So these 2 weeks are going to be a good opportunity for you to get familiar with those projects and get started on them. And if you finish them early and you want to turn them in, by all means, get them to me. So as we go through looking through some of the key ways to go through the module and some of the key elements of the module, you can read through this. There are your strategies, of course. Your Module 2 forum link is right here, and if you click that, it will bring you to the forums. Please note, because a couple of folks were confused by this, I developed these strands in March. That's why this has a March date. But if you click into the strands, this is where the new progression of replies will go. So this is what you should be looking at whenever you click into the modules, the module discussion boards. And if you click reply, it will produce your reply message. And then you can type in the box, and then please make sure that you hit submit at the end. Keeping in mind that if someone has already posted and you're interested in getting on their forum and looking at it and discussing that, and thank you, Christine, for getting in early and doing your intersections. I already looked at this this morning. So if I wanted to reply to Christine, I would hover over and I could reply directly to this author by clicking, and then that'll give me a little bit of an insert to show that I'm in her conversation. I do understand it's kind of frustrating when we get a lot of conversation going because you have to read through and look through. If there's a particular author that you have, or a participant that you have responded to, you can always scroll and look for their name and go back to that conversation in that way if you're kind of out of some of the others. Okay, and it is linear, so it gets kind of long, and you can always hide replies if you don't want to look at all of the replies that are coming back. You can always hide them too, and that'll help to shrink up your screen some. So you do have 3 discussion forums in this one as well. One of them involves a graphic, which is the what are your intersections, and Christine actually did a wonderful job of giving you an example of what that could look like. She did her You don't have to do this part, but she did an explanation of all of her intersections, and then she did a small Wordle graphic. You could do it that way if you would like, or you could do the graphic that has your explanation in it. Either way is perfect, so I'm just excited that there's a good example up there so that you guys can see. The other 2, this one, Social Justice Resources, is going to refer back to the Module 1 Social Justice Resources that we've been looking at. These are the isms. So you're going to pick a different ism for this week and start to take a look at how that ism affects people and what are ways that we can help to advocate for folks who are plagued by that ism. And then, of course, the 3rd discussion forum, let me go back in here, is talking about it. And this one is going to focus on how we need to withdraw and kind of hold back and jumping in and attempting to speak for others. This one is a really cool topic because I know that anyone who walks around with any kind of privilege automatically feels like they can solve problems for those who who don't have the privilege or who are impacted and affected by the isms. And this is one that I want you to just kind of take and think about a little bit. What does that do? How does that take away from the experience or take away from the voice of the person who may have had that experience? And what are some ways that we can circumnavigate that and go around and still give our back and support and aid in helping them in their struggle without taking away their voice and the power that they have? Learning logs happen exactly the same way that we've been dealing with them. And I really appreciate that you guys have been successful at getting learning logs in. Remember that you only need to do one, but many of you are opting to do more, and that's perfectly fine. It's a really good place, I think, to kind of purge and give your ideas in a nice, safe space and just think through what you're learning, and I really appreciate that. A lot of you are using that as a space to add to ideas that maybe didn't come up in class. A couple of you have used that as a place to take notes on what you're reading or to add information, maybe resources that you've been looking at. So I always appreciate that. So you have 2 upcoming projects that aren't due. You have one due in Module 3, one due in Module 4. The MySpace Exploration Project is due at the end of Module 3, and this is a big one for you. So in this assignment, you're going to be using photographs that you take that are within your school, around your school, and in the community and neighboring communities that feed into your school. Okay, so remember that it isn't necessarily about the architecture of the building, although some of that will come into play in regards to maybe the ableism when we think about how are students able to access the building, how are parents able to access the building. But a big part of this is the environment that is created in your building. So I have put an assignment example up in the assignment examples that you can look at one that was done pretty well. You are going to be looking at these questions. So I've given you some questions to really go through and think about. The biggest thing I want you looking at is what is the message? What is the message that is being conveyed by the space, not only in your school, but by the neighborhood, by the, I always think about where's the grocery store? Where are the amenities for people to be able to access? And I really want you to consider something. If you have a community that doesn't have access to necessarily a grocery store, but where the community has to constantly go to a convenience store or would need a car to go to a grocery store, how does that affect folks who live in poverty? Because we all know that convenience stores tend to have much higher prices on everything and don't always carry what people need. I have a neighbor who grew up in Carroll County, was raised and went to college in Towson, and then became a teacher in Baltimore City. And when she moved to Baltimore City because she wanted to live in the neighborhood or the area where she was teaching, she quickly learned that if you didn't go to the grocery store very first thing Saturday morning, then you weren't going to be able to get the items that you would need to survive for the week. Milk, bread, vegetables were all gone because there wasn't a huge enough supply for the demand. And unlike grocery stores in rural areas that are supplied maybe once a week or multiple times a week, these grocery stores sometimes weren't being supplied every week. So she learned very quickly that she had to go to the grocery store very first thing Saturday morning because by the time Sunday night came, there was nothing left. No bread, no milk. So that's something that I always consider whenever I'm thinking about this MySpace Exploration Project is how are communities impacted by the resources or lack of resources that are around them. So this one is going to be a PowerPoint or some other media presentation you get to choose. It's very important that you do a good job with your captions. And if you're doing a PowerPoint, it's okay if you want to put things down in your notes. Just please let me know whenever you submit your project that your information is included in the notes section of the PowerPoint slides. If they're anywhere else, please let me know where I can find them. And if I have any questions, I'll contact you and let you know. But the critical analysis of each photo is what's very important here. Photos are great. They're going to help me to visualize. But what I want to see is if you are critically involved in the social justice issues that each of these things may impact. Please don't think this has to be a negative project because there are a lot of things that are positive in your buildings, in your communities. So those are things also that you should be focusing on. So please try to, make it a mixture. If you have some good things, you have some bad things, or you have some things that you believe could be built upon, those are all really good things. Okay, the final thing is conducting a focus project. focus group project, and this one's a little more lengthy, but you can see that I have something during Module 2 and 3. This is where you'll want to be looking, during Module 2 and 3 section, that's going to give you some information. I'm sorry, I see I have an old date here. I'm going to have to change that. But these are the things that you're going to get started with and starting to think about this, and I want to make sure that you're contacting me and getting information to me if you're having any problems with finding a focus group so that I can help you to reach out to different groups. But I want you to think about your PFLAG organizations in your community if you cannot find a focus group in your school. I want you to go to some people who are different than you are. So think about that outreach. I had a very interesting project that was done last spring semester, that was all about people from a church who were adopting international students, international children. And that was kind of interesting to find out why they were doing that, why the adoption was so important to them, what they believed that their white privilege from the United States or their cultural privilege from the United States could help to save these children. It was really interesting, kind of different, off the wall, a little different than what I've seen, but that was very helpful and very interesting to me. So please it doesn't necessarily have to be race. It can be anything. So think broad and think wide. Okay, then you'll see there's also a section of things that have to be that are due in Module 4, just to kind of keep you on track for this. Okay, so lots of things to happen in this module, even though it is an easier module for you in regards to workload because you don't have as much to turn in by the end. There's still so much to do to prepare for the next 2 modules. I know that we're now in the swing of school, and tomorrow's going to be our first Monday back at school, so please consider thinking about chunking your time. Like I did in the announcement, I gave you sort of a timeline of a way to stay successful. By Wednesday of this week, you will have done your first post. Okay, for those of you looking to get all of the possible points on your discussion boards for this time, you should have your first post done no later than Wednesday of this week. So keep that in mind as you're planning out your week. You want to make sure that you get in the conversation early and then that you continue to check in about every other day. And as always, please make sure that you take off at least 1 day a week so that you're not looking at your computer screen. Some of you are very effective at not looking at your computer and leaving things so that you don't have to do them. Just please consider that. It's going to refresh you so much if you work in some time that you can actually take off from doing your online learning, your schoolwork, and all of those things. All right, I hope you have a wonderful week. And as always, if you need anything, email me. I'm really enjoying the communication with you, getting to learn about you. So please just know that I'm part of your team also, and whatever you need, I'm here to help. Have a good week. Thank you.